and get paint. Everyone can hear me? Can you just say yes or something so that I'll know that everyone can hear me? Cool. Hold on for a minute. Cool. So today the algorithm that we're gonna learn about is one of the easiest algorithm to understand, one of the easiest algorithm to implement, and the whole explanation of that algorithm will take you like just 2 minutes. So the algorithm that we're gonna learn today is k nearest neighbors. So k nearest neighbors is basically used for classification, but it's also useful for regression. But most of the time, it's used for classification. Now, as the name suggests, k nearest neighbors. So in this algorithm, when we classify any unknown object on the basis of its neighbors, or hold on for 2 more minutes. कौन है कौन है क्या 2 बार कॉल करना उसको okay so to classify any unknown data point will take in consideration with the neighbors around which the unknown data point is. And now how exactly we take into that consideration is the whole algorithm. Now if just imagine this is our data set, the representation of our data set. Okay, this is our like this is our data point somewhere. Let's just change the color now. And just imagine this is green. Okay, so just imagine this is our data set as a training data set. Now if any new data point comes, any random new data point comes, so imagine this is like gray in color. Imagine this is here. This is our data point that we have to consider in which particular classification it will in which particular class it will lie. Now in k nearest neighbors, we try to figure out the number k. Now k stands for the number of neighbors which we have to consider in order to classify that particular data point or an instance to a class. Now just imagine we have k is equal to 3. K is equal to 3. So what we'll do is we'll try to find out the 3 nearest neighbors of this particular point. So out of all the data points that you have, which one is the nearest one? So you can see this particular point is the nearest one. So this one, what is the second nearest point? So if you'll consider this is the second nearest point, which is the third nearest point. So you can see this one is the third nearest point. So out of all the three nearest point of this unknown data, you have two pink. So the value of pink is 2, the value of black is 1, and the value of green is 0. So this data tells us that depending upon the neighbors, it's more likely to be in the pink category. So what we'll do is we will just take the spray, get it pink, and assign it as a pink class, that this point is in a pink it belongs to the pink class. That's it. That's the whole concept of k nearest neighbors. That's the only concept of k nearest neighbors. No rocket science, no hard things. That's it. Now there are one or two small things that you can that you should know about. First of all, it's also used for regression. Now this was classification. Now if you want to know how exactly it's used for regression, let's find out how it's used for regression. Even though we don't generally use k-nearest neighbors as regression, but it is useful as regression also. So again, imagine if you have this data set with, let's take red points, because if it's a regression, that I'm considering it as a linear regression for now. This. So this is our regression data set. So it's better to use the linear regression. But if we have to use the k-nearest neighbors, what we can do is, again, if we'll have any random point for which we have to find out the value of k, or the value of the exact value, because regression gives you the exact value. Now what we'll do is, let's consider the black point. Like this is the class which we want to know the position of, like where does exactly it belongs, what is the exact value of this. Or if you can say, for the value of x, like it will be x, it will be y. So this particular value of x, what is that value? So again, we'll have k is equal to, let's take k is equal to 5 here. Okay, k is equal to 5. So what we'll do, we'll try to find out 5 closest objects, or the 5 closest data points. So this one, and looks like this one. So we have 5 different data points which are closest to the unknown data point. What we'll do is, we'll just take all these 5 data points, we'll find the mean of that data point, all data points, and this will be the value of this particular data point. That's it. That's what do you do in regression of your nearest neighbors. But most of the time you don't generally use nearest neighbors in regression. It's mostly or most commonly used in classification. But just to let you know that if you want to work with k nearest neighbors in regression, this is how you do it. Now there are one or two things that you have to figure out in k nearest neighbors. First one, what is the exact value of k that you have to take, because it's not going to be predefined that which exact value of k you need. So the value of k, and you have to make sure that the value of k that you're choosing, it's not too small and not too large, because if it's too small, there can be a situation, which imagine we'll take one more situation. We'll take one more situation in which we have like, okay, this is what I want. We have like random points here and there. We have random points. Okay, that looks really bad. Let's stop this thing. Take me a better one. So we have points everywhere, or any cluster or anything like that. Okay, now there are some outliers present. It's completely possible to have the outliers. So like imagine these are the 2 outliers, which is not in any cluster. Now if we have a data point which is here, imagine let's take another color. So this this is the data point that we have to find out. Okay, now where should this particular data point points to, like in which column or in which category it should lie. Now if you'll give the value of k as what, 1, you gave k value as 1, so what is the closest one? Well, we'll try to find the closest one. This is the closest one, so it will assign this as this particular column. So only because this particular data point is close to our outlier, even that particular data point is considered as an outlier, even though there is a chance that it's not. There may be chance that there are, like, just imagine there are like more points. There are like more points here. So it's highly probable that this is his cluster. But because there is a close outlier, the data point is considered as an outlier. So we are not supposed to give the value of k really small, and then we are not even supposed to give the value of k really large. Just imagine you to give the value of k is 100. You gave the value of k is 100. It means what you're doing, you're just considering what is the percentage of what is the percentage of classes which are present. Like, just imagine your classes is 60% red. Like, imagine the classes which are here is in red category, or like category A, and this is in class B category, and you give k is equal to 100. It means it will try to find out the number of classes or the classes which are present for all the points which are available in the whole data set. So even though you can see that this particular point is closer to this class, but because the number of objects in class A is more as compared to the number of objects in class B, so it will be assigned as a class A object, because they give the value of k way too big. So you have to find out the exact value of k where we can get the accurate answer. So how to find out the value of k, we'll see in the code. I guess till now you have understood the working of how k-nearest neighbor works. It's a really easy thing. So you go towards the code. Where is the code? Page that. 2 minutes, guys. So for k-nearest neighbors, we'll again import all the libraries which are important for us: pandas, numpy, matplotlib, seaborn. Now to get the data, you have a data set which is known as classified data. So the classified data gives you the target class as 0 and 1, and depending on the classified data gives you these are attributes or the features that you have is for a credit card classification, that the transaction that happened with that credit card, is it valid or not. So all the objects or all the features are for that. So there's a high probability that you'll not understand what exactly they're written, because if you use any real-time data or something like that, there's most probably that they are encoded into some kind of a unknown names or something, so that they'll give you the exact numerical value, but you'll not understand what exactly it's written. So that's the case here. So depending upon all the features that you have, the target class is either 1 or 0. So 1 stands for that the credit card transaction that happened is forged or invalid, or you can say it's fake. And if it's 0, then it's a valid one. Now we have our data. Now we have to standardize the variable. Now why exactly we are standardizing the variable? There are two things that you should know about standardizing here. Because we are using KNN, it means, as I've showed you, here we are using only 2D data. For this particular situation, we have like how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 different features. So there it's gonna have like 10 different axes. Not possible to display. Now imagine for a column having the max value as 0 and the minimum value as 1. So the number will be oscillating between this much only. Max value as 0, now min value as 1. So 0 and 1. The number will be, all the data set will be in between only. And there's one more feature for which the max value is 0 and the minimum, for the minimum value is 0 and maximum value is 10,000. Like 10,000 is a maximum value. So the whole data that you have will be oscillating towards the whole graph. So you can see it's not bad, but it's a bit imbalance, that one of the data set, like one of the data is completely close between 0 and 1, and one of the data is lying between 0 to 1000 10,000. So if you'll use k-nearest neighbor there, there's a high probability that the numbers which are closing between 1000 will have more effect, because there's a high probability of their being close to them. Now, what exactly we do for that? We use a standard scaler. What exactly standard scaler is? It will take all your attributes. It will take all your attributes or all the features, and it will convert all your features into a standard normal distribution. It means all the answers of all the values that you'll get for any of the features will be oscillating between -1 to 1. It's not gonna what lost its numerical value, that what exactly it's representing, but comparing to other things, like comparing to other values, it's just gonna standardize it towards in between -1 to 1, so that all the values that you are using will have will stay in a similar scale. Now we only use scalar or standard scalar only when the data set that you have will have this much of imbalance, like you have one feature which is only oscillating between 0 to 1 and one feature oscillating between 0 to 10,000, then we do the standard scalar. If both the attributes are in the same range, there's no need of doing standard scalar. So to do the standard scalar, we take the standard scalar object. How to take the standard scalar object? So from sklearn.preprocessing, we take the standard scalar and we make an object, a standard scalar. Now we made the object. Now scalar.fit, we provided the data. Now we provided the data without the target class, because we do not want the target class to be standardized, because target class is either 0 and 1. So we don't want any effect in the target class. So we will give the data without giving the target class. Just scalar.fit by df of drop target class access of 1. So the answer that you will get from this particular column will only be this much, like this much area. So we gave it to the scalar. So scalar did the fits function. Now, after fitting the data, you have to transform the data. So scalar.transform, same thing that we have provided. Now, after the whole transformation that has been done, all the attributes or all the values of the features that you need will be saved in scaled features. Now, if you scale features have the data, how to make it a data frame? As I told you, df.featured is equal to pandas.data frame. Provide the data, which is scaled features. Provide the columns. So now the column names is going to be similar for these two. These two, the column names are going to be similar. So we took the column names from here. It means df.columns till -1. It means df.column till -1. So in excluding this last one, you take the columns of all the things. So you have this all columns and put it here. So you have your data set again, the same data set, but this time standardized. Now we'll use the pair plot to see what exactly they represent. Now there's a chance that you'll not exactly understand why exactly we use the pair plot, but most of the time, if you have a new data with you, it's better to use a pair plot and to see what all things they are describing. Now you can see like WTT versus what can we take? I think it's fine. WTT versus PTI. So you can see there's a cluster. So these all are clusterable, that you can take any of the two values and try to make a cluster. It's possible to make a cluster. Like this particular cluster can be used for k-means algorithm. What's that? KNN algorithm to find the cluster, because it's in circular shape. Now this one, which one? This one is a bit hard to do the clustering because the orange part is in between, the blue part is somewhere outside. So you'll get some of the feelings with the pair plot. In this particular example, you'll not. Now your data has been completed, like the transformation of data has been done. Now what you do? We do the train test split. So how exactly we do the train test split? I guess till now you have remembered everything about train test split. So X train X test, Y train Y test. We do the train test split with the scaled features which you have. and the d of the target class, the value of x and the value of y, and the test size is 30. It means 70% for the training and 30% for the testing. Now using knn. For this particular example, we are using k nearest neighbor as 1. It means we are just taking into consideration the first answer or the first one. Now it's not a really good option, not a really good thing to do. PRED. So the prediction has been here. If we'll see the score of this model. Now to make a linear classification from sklearn.neighbors, we import the k-nearest classifier. So k-nearest classifier make an object and we provide the most important value of k. So n neighbors is the value of k that you're providing for the model. So we provided the value of k is equal to 1 and neighbors as 1. So the model has been created as the nearest neighbor as 1. So we fit the model x train and y train and I predicted the model. Now if you see the model prediction, pred.score, and we provided x test and y test, has no, oh sorry, not prediction, KNN. So there's a 91% accuracy. Looks good, but it's never suggested that you should use k nearest neighbors as one neighbor, because it's gonna be really highly highly prone to outliers. Now how to make the value of k, like how to get to know the value of k. To get to know the value of k, we use something like we try to use different values of k, and we try to plot the accuracy graph, like on different values of k, what all accuracy you got. And then from that you try to find out a point from where the accuracy remains in between between a certain range. That particular point, the accuracy is not decreasing, or the accuracy is not the error rate is not decreasing from that point, or the error accuracy is not increasing from that point. So how exactly we do that? Now what we'll do, error rate. Okay, so we'll go for the accuracy and then we'll see the error also. So if we'll use the accuracy, so we make a list accuracy rate. Now what we'll do, we'll take the value of k from 1 till 40. So from 1 till 40. Now we're going to train our model 40 times by providing the value of neighbors as I. So the first iteration, the k-nearest classification will have the neighbors as 1. Second iteration will have 2. Third, 3. So the same thing that we have did here to train the model, the same thing we did here also, but now this time it's in a loop, so it will run 40 times. So knn is equal to k-nearest classification and neighbors as I. So first time first, then second, third, fourth, it's gonna go till 39. Now we'll get the score using cross-validation score. As I've told you what exactly is cross-validation score. We provided the model, we provided the target class, and we provide the cross-validation number. What exactly you want in satisfied k for cross-validation. So it will give you the score or the accuracy. You'll get the accuracy for that particular value of neighbors. Like for when the k nearest neighbor is 1, what is the score? When the k nearest neighbor was 2, what is the score? So the score that you're getting, we're just gonna append it to the accuracy rate. So score you got, so accuracy rate dot append score dot mean. So what exactly we did the score dot mean, because for each and every iteration, like because you're using the cross validation and providing CV is equal to 10, it means for each and every iteration you're getting 10 different accuracy, because it's a cross validation. So for each iteration you'll get 10 different accuracies, and then we'll do this mean and we'll save it. So for each and every loop we'll have one accuracy. That for k-nearest neighbors as 1, what you got as an accuracy. When the k-nearest neighbor was 2, what is the accuracy you got? And we collect it into the accuracy rate. Now the same thing that we can do for error rate also. Exact same thing that we can do for error rate. But what exactly we have to change in the error rate? Write the exact same thing. Now what possibly can be changed in the error rate? Error rate will be just 1 minus the score. Now because the score that you're getting from cross-validation score is the accuracy rate. So 1 minus the accuracy rate will be the error rate. So error rate. Now if we'll plot the graph of the error rate. How exactly plot the graph? We give the figure size, fine enough. So we'll make a plot from range 1 to 40, because the range that we have given is 1 to 40. That will be the x value, and the y value is the error rate. The rate is the y value. We make color blue, line style, dashed, marker. That's completely dependent upon you how exactly you're representing the graph. Now, if you can see the graph, we can see for the value, when the value of k is 1, the error rate is really high. The value of k is where 2, the error rate is, it went high. When the value of k became 3, the error came down. Now the same thing happens for each and every value of k. There is an oscillation. Now we'll try to find out the value of k from where the error rate didn't cross that particular point. That that's the maximum error after coming down, and then the error, it just stays in between one of the regions. Now you can see this is the value of k when it's 23. Now after 23 you can see that the value of k never came up, and it started oscillating between, what can you see, 0.65 to 0.6. So in between 0.65 to 0.6 it started oscillating. So it's not completely accurate, but it's roughly accurate. It's not even necessary that you have to, it's completely, this is the exact point that you have to take. You can go for like 24 also, 25 also. There's chances that you can go for like, which one is this, 30, it will be 32 also, so you can go for that. So but what we go for, the rough thing is, try to find out a point from where the value or the error rate doesn't go like crazy somewhere else, and it will just stays in between one of the threshold values or one of the columns or one of the range. So from 23 you can see it stays between 0.60 to 0.60. It stays between that particular column only. So we take k is equal to 23. So we put k is equal to 23. We again do the same thing, knn.fit, knn.predict, and now we printed the confusion matrix and the classification report. Now when printing the confusion matrix, you can see the true positive and the true negative and the false positive and the false negative. So you can see there are high number of true values, it means the model predicted is the correct one, and a bit low number of, comparatively low amount of wrong values that the model predicted wrong. So now you can see the precision of 0 was 90 and the precision of 1 was 93, recall was 92. So the accuracy is really good. Now if we'll try to find out the score of that particular model, so the k-NN score gives you 95%. So when we used the model as k1, you got accuracy of 91.33. When we use the value of k23, we got 95% accuracy. There's still a chance that it will go more down. Let's try for, what is this, 32. Let's go for and try for 32. 32. Okay, it decreased a bit. So I guess this is this particular point. So you can just try and find out which one is the best one for you. So I will keep it with 23. 23. So you can just find out which one is the best one for you. But what exactly we go with? Find a point after which the accuracy or the error rate stays between a range, a small range. It doesn't go oscillating between, like doesn't go too oscillating. So this is what k-nearest neighbor is all about. This is one of the simplest thing. There's one benefit of k-nearest neighbor is there is literally no training step. Even though we write the knn is equal to fit, the only thing that the knn.fit does is take the points and plot it into a graph, like on the RAM only. Just plot it into a graph to find out the distances. That's it. Because as I've give you the example, there is no mathematical formulas going on here, like to train your model, that the model is ready. The moment you give your data, if I'll remove everything, if I remove everything, just draw the line again. Okay, so just imagine we have the points. So the moment you give the data, the model is ready to give the predictions that you give any random value. So it's gonna find the distance and give you the answer. So there is literally no training step. No training step. It's ever ready. It's like it's always ready to give you the predictions. This is one benefit of K-nearest neighbors, that it doesn't take a whole lot of toll on your CPU memory. So this is what all about K-nearest neighbor is. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. No one has any doubt? Okay, if no one has any doubt, you can just give the thumbs up. Okay, to standardize the data, how will it match the actual data without changing it? The thing about standardizing it, it doesn't change the exact value. It's just gonna bring the scale down, because we are normalizing the data. So all the data that you are changing, all the values that you are changing, it's relative. It's not an absolute change value. It's relative. So because you can see two values, just imagine two values. One is 0, 5, and 10. So the distance between 0 to 5 and 5 to 10 is 5. It means the distance between these 2 points are exactly the similar. Now we'll try to standardize it. So what can it be? 0, 0 0.5, and 1. Now the distance between them is decreased. The distance between them is exactly 0 0.5 and 0 0.5. But still the distance between 0 to 0, the first point and the second point is similar to the distance between the first point and the second point. So that's how it's relative. Cool. Any other question? Yes, today is project 2. I'm waiting for everyone to get the questions clear so that I can explain the project 2. If everyone is on, just give a thumbs up so that I will just explain you what is project 2. Cool. Cool. So after completion of all the algorithms, summarize. After completion of all algorithms, summarize all at a glance. Sure, bro. I'll take one class for the summary only. So if everyone is fine, then I'll just explain you the project that you have to do for this week. And the previous week project, I'm not getting a really good response from you guys. There's literally how many responses? Let's see what happened. Eh? So till now there's only 4 responses. It means only 4 people submitted the project. Like how to decide on which data set for which algorithm. Okay, this is the question that I have explained you so many times. It completely depends on you and how much of information that you have about the data. If it's a regression one, go for the regression algorithms like linear linear regression, multiple linear regression, polynomial regression, or any regression. If it's a classification one, you can go for any other classification algorithm that you love. Logistic, support vector, decision trees, random forest, now depending upon what kind of data exactly that you have. If it has too much of missing values, then logistic will not work properly. Instead, if you are using the techniques to avoid the missing values, fine. But if your model has too many missing values, better to go for random forest. Sorry, better to go for decision trees or random forest. And if your model is, what can you say, only categorical, like all the things are categorical, as I've explained to you in the example of random decision trees. If it's only categorical, it's better to go for random decision trees instead of random forest. That's completely depending upon what data you have and how much you know about the algorithms. And if it's not, then you can just try each and every algorithm you want and get to know the best one. What is this? Okay. Now let's go for your project. Now the project is gonna be, again, really simple. So you have a data set of around 500 rows. Okay, 600 something rows. Now this tells you the loan status. So for each and every customer or any applicant, you have their gender, if they're married or not, dependencies, like how many people are dependent on them, their education, like they're graduate, not graduate, if they're self-employed, their applicant income, their co-applicant income, that and the people they are dependent upon their income, the loan amount they're asking for, and the loan amount term, like for how many days they are asking for, the credit history, like before that they gave back the loan or not, the property on which they have, like the property they are claiming upon the loan, they're in urban or rural. Now on the basis of that, the loan has been granted. Yes, it means the loan has been granted. No means the loan has not been granted. Now depending on the basis of all the things, you have to train your model so that if you'll get all these points, which is gender, marriage, dependencies, and all the things, the model should predict the loan status, either the loan has been granted or not. So simple thing, it's a classification problem. So I'll not make you select which classification problem to do. So you have to apply support vector matrices, logistic regression, k-nearest neighbors, and decision trees, all four of them. Because applying the things on all four of them, maybe like two lines for each and everything, and then at the last you have to just compare your results, that with support vector matrices how much of accuracy you got, with logistic regression how much of accuracy you got, with k-nearest neighbors how much of accuracy you got, and with random forest how much of accuracy you got. And for each and every algorithm, you know that the data that you have to provide will be slightly different, so manage that also. If you have any doubt, you can ask about the project. You lost connection. Okay. So I'll explain it again. So you have a data set with loan status. So depending upon the gender, married, dependencies, education, all the attributes, the data set tells you that the loan has been provided or not. Now you have to train your model to guess the same, that if you provide the gender, married, dependencies, and all the things, the loan will get passed or not. Now you can say this is a classification problem, that depending upon the data, either it's going to be yes or no. So you have to apply support vector matrices, support vector machines, logistic regression, k-nearest neighbors, and random decision trees. So applying all those things, and then because all the algorithms are classification algorithms, so apply all those algorithms and then get your predictions of which one is the best, which one is the worst. Like you just give a prediction, I just print what is the accuracy we've got for all the algorithms. Decision trees. If you want to go for random forest, you can go and try, but decision trees is the must. because I'm excluding decision trees from the required category, because decision trees is exactly similar to what random forest is. Like random forest is what? Number of decision trees. That's it. So these are the four main ones. If you want to go do the fifth one, fine enough. And at the last, I just want to see the comparison between the accuracies that you got. Then for decision trees, we have to drop continuous data. Yes, we have to. Applicant income, co-applicant income, loan amount. There's so many things that you have to. You don't have to drop. You have to. Uh, there's one thing that you can do, which is really good. You can just club it in between. Like you can see the applicant income here. Club it in between. Like which one is more than like. You can make different columns. From 5,000 to 8,000, 8,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 12,000. You'll get three different columns. Then you can use it on decision trees, because dropping all the columns will not gonna be helpful, because the loan status is depending upon the applicant income and the co-applicant income. It's directly dependent. It's not like it's a really low correlation. It's a high correlation. So instead of dropping this thing, better to make clusters of them. Okay. Okay. So again, for this project, you'll have a whole week. And what about accuracy? What exactly about accuracy? Just have to get the accuracy with all the four algorithms that you're going to use, because if you're using four different algorithms, you'll get four different accuracies. After doing the train test split, you'll get a score which is different for all models that you have made. At the last, just print all the models and their accuracies. That's training upon the same data set, trying to get the same output. What is the accuracy for different models? Cool. So again, same thing, whole week to complete this project. I'll forward the data set, gets your hands dirty. And one thing more, your data set, this particular data set has missing values. So handle that also, because there are some small missing values you can see. Male and female, there's some male and female gone. Which one is this? Loan term amount is gone. So handle that also. So I guess everything is clear now. Okay, thanks. Yeah. So this concludes today's class. And one more thing, today is the last day of submitting the project, and still now I've only got 4. Please complete the project and give, because I guess you know that at the end of the session, at the end of the mentorship, if you need your certificates, then you need to complete all the projects. Otherwise, I can't give you names for issuing the certificates. Then please complete it. I guess you need more time, so I can extend it to 2 minutes, please. What's today's date? Friday. Okay, then I have to give. Okay, you can submit your project till Monday. The first one. Deadline has been extended. I guess you're happy with that. But please submit till Monday, because after that I can't do anything. Okay then. Bye bye. Sure, bro. Okay then. Bye bye.